2, but we're waiting for the playoffs.
May I officially welcome you to this wonderful video that depicts the history and the background of the Huntsman World Senior Games. It's a great pleasure to have you viewing this video. You'll have an opportunity to see some of the early days and the early history of these games. You may even see yourself and how you've participated over many, many years in these games. But you will see many wonderful friends, you'll see a lot of colleagues, you'll see tremendous volunteers, you'll see people who have wanted so very, very much to help you with cancer or your health or your fitness. So these games will bring into your life, and this video will bring into your life, great remembrances of the past 20 years and an opportunity for us to determine within our own hearts and minds that we're going to continue these great games and that we're going to continue as individuals to be prepared and to be fit and to be in great shape and to be competitive and to not sit back as grandmothers and grandfathers or great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers, but we're going to get out there and compete and show our grandchildren who the real winner is. So welcome to this video. I hope you enjoy it. May I give my thanks and gratitude and heartfelt appreciation to all those who have worked on this video and all those who work so very tirelessly and with such great energy to bring these games about each year and make them possible. We love you and we appreciate you. Thank you so very much.
The date was November 28, 1986. It was Royce and Jill Jones' 11th anniversary, and dinner at the Hilton Inn in St. George was their destination. It was to be a quiet night, just the two of them.
I remember the very booth where we sat that evening, and John and Daisy Morgan, who owned the Hilton, happened to be there that night, and we're old friends, and so they came and joined us, and we just had a great time, just had a wonderful discussion. But during the course of the dinner, we started talking about some issues that John Morgan had identified for motels in general in St. George, and that is that there was a real gap in the fall and the autumn for all hotels, motels in the St. George area. And he felt like there ought to be some sort of activity that we ought to somehow sponsor to bring in people from all around the world to increase the occupancy rate. So as we started talking, we brainstormed, and part of what we talked about was coming up with some sort of athletic event that involves seniors, because St. George is a great place for seniors. There's no question about that. We have seniors from all over the world coming here, so it was a natural then to tie in an athletic event. Well, we started talking about the Olympics, and the Olympics is such a great endeavor, and with so many different venues that it became the focal point for what we were discussing. And as we talked about it, I could see that John was just getting more and more excited the more we talked. And the more we talked, the more events that we came up with and the more methods that we could see to advertise the event, get the word out, let people know about what's going on with the World Senior Games. And that's how it all germinated. That's how it all started with John Morgan, because John is the vehicle that took the idea and really made it happen. And it was the following year when the first World Senior Games took off.
Sometimes dreams come and go. This one came, but it would not go away for John Morgan.
As we talked about the idea, John Morgan instantly could see the bigger picture. He could see that this is something that would not only work regionally, but globally. I mean, he went global the first time we talked about it, which absolutely surprised me, because you got a picture that at the time, nothing like that had ever been done. And John was already talking about bringing in people from around the world.
The idea of sporting events for seniors was the new idea back in the 1980s. The promotion of healthy lifestyles and exercise among the baby boomer generation hadn't caught on yet, but all of that was about to change throughout the world, and a little town in southwest Utah would make its impact worldwide.
St. George, very famous in the world because of the Huntsman World Senior Games. And even Mr. Huntsman doesn't know about that, but his name and the name of John Morgan everywhere, even in Russia. And we have in Masters magazine in news not only about my winnings in the Huntsman World Senior Games, but also several words about John Morgan and Huntsman.
John began to assemble a team of hard-working, dedicated people. Sylvia Wonderly, the game's first executive director, went after the international and non-Utah market.
One of the questions people ask me is, how did someone in Detroit find out about a tournament in a small town in Utah that most people never heard of? Well, I have a letter here dated August the 4th, 1987 from Sylvia Wonderly. She asked if I would bring a basketball team. She got my name and address from Ron Koski in Portland, Oregon, and basketball was not considered a sport at the time. The committee thought that basketball would be too difficult for men to run up and down the floor at age 55 and older. But with Ron's help and help of a few other people, we were able to bring basketball teams, and basketball thus became a sport at the Huntsman World Senior Games.
Royce and John went to work on local businesses for support, and sports directors were recruited to run the events. Through their hard work and diligence, teams and players from all over the country and world would come to compete, many for the first time discovering the secret of the beauty and hospitality of southwest Utah. It was now 1987. Ronald Reagan was President of the United States. The #1 song in the charts was Walk Like an Egyptian by the Bangles. The top TV show was Cosby, and the Minnesota Twins won the World Series. They had started on October 12th with 224 athletes and 7 sports. There was basketball, cycling, golf, horseshoes, road races, softball, and tennis. In 1988, John Huntsman started his long love relationship with the games that has now reached 18 years.
I first heard about the Huntsman World Senior Games from John Morgan. And the year was 1987, and he was just beginning to do the games. It was an original idea from John and Daisy Morgan. And I wished them well. That was for the local people of St. George. And in 1988, he came back up and reported to me that they had had these games. There were 300 or 400 people who had showed up for the games. They were far more popular than what he had anticipated. And the second year, I gave him a modest contribution. I think it was around $10,000, which was quite a bit then, considering it was a very local event. And they put on the games for the second year, which was 1988. And then he came to me after 1988 and said, now John, we're having people from out of state. We're having people from out of the St. George area. We're having folks in a broad number of places who would love to come and participate in these games. But financially, we just can't afford to carry the costs. could you help us much more than you were able to last year? And I thought about what these games mean to people, and particularly individuals over 50. And I thought of St. George, and I thought of the wonderful people of St. George, and also my warm friendship with John Morgan. So I wrote him out a check and gave it to him and said, I hope this will be helpful to you. And the check was for $100,000, far more than he had come in. He had come in and asked for $25,000. But I wanted to be sure the games were done first class. I wanted to be sure that he had every expense he needed, and he could hire staff, and he could do things that he ordinarily couldn't do. And he called right back, totally surprised, because I don't think he had seen the amount of the check while he was in my office. I think he just put it in his pocket. But he called right back and he said, well, if you're going to do something of this size and scope, we certainly should name it after your corporation and let your corporation have some recognition for this. And I said, that's not necessary at all, John. I just really want to see that people have a successful time and to see you succeed in your efforts. But nevertheless, they prevailed and they changed the name to the Huntsman World Senior Games in 1989. And it's been that way the past 18 years.
The early years of the games were difficult years that were filled with challenges and obstacles. Most people around hadn't yet seen the vision or the potential of senior athletic competitions. Or maybe they just didn't think John's idea would work.
Way ahead of them.
Well, that's all that counts, right?
That's right.
Well, interestingly enough, John and Daisy Morgan were neighbors of mine, only lived about a half a block away, and I was in the Senate, and John told me what he had planned to start these games, and I'm embarrassed to admit that I said, John, that's a nice idea. It will never work. You'll never be able to attract other than locals. And so here I'm admitting absolutely publicly that I was terribly wrong, and John's vision, with the help of John and Karen Huntsman, has gone far, far beyond what any of us could have imagined.
John had kind of one idea, and I had a little bit different idea, and I'm embarrassed to say that I actually had a misinformed idea of the capability of seniors. John started talking about track and field and cycling and running and all these events that I thought were going to be pretty strenuous. I was thinking more of the line of bowling and horseshoes, those that are a little less strenuous. They're still very challenging, but they're a little less physically strenuous. And I got to tell you, I was surprised and impressed to see that any of the notions I had about being restricted for seniors just went out the window the first game.
He came to the city council, as I remember being new there, trying to convince the city that he was going to do this big thing, and everybody's skeptical of something that's new because you have to wait for a while for it to happen, so everybody's kind of sitting around looking, but I always had a sense that he was going to come through with this and was going to end up being big. So we started helping him with the city. They never charged for any of their venue sites. They would allow their city employees to help jump in and work and help him with the things that he did.
John Morgan had recruited many talented and tireless people in those early years. Sylvia and John Wonderly, Doug Labrum, Mona and Bill Given, Paula Bell and Ken Jolly. All were early recruits of John, and all of them helped the games get started. But the first person John recruited was his wife, Daisy. Daisy believed fiercely in John's dream.
This is a beautiful and a wonderful sight as I look up to see you. And Daisy and I are grateful that we can be part of this. They call it a dream, and I guess it is a dream.
As we look back on those early years, many of today's traditions were established very early on. The registration process has pretty much stayed the same. Health screenings, the spectacular opening ceremonies, and food. Oh, the food. All have been an integral part of the games from the beginning. But maybe the best ideas the founders had was our sport directors. From the beginning, the organizational lifeblood of our games has been and still is our sports directors. These hardy warriors spend countless hours recruiting other volunteers, doing schedules and brackets, planning the logistics of their sport, and devising creative ways to make things better. Many of them, like Shay Allen, spent their own money to add special touches to the games. Shay was involved in tennis in the 80s and 90s. She would make trophies that she handed out at the award social. These were weird little items that were always appropriate for the special recognition she planned. There were well-decorated artichokes for the Ought to Not Choke Award and other specially prepared items to recognize one's attire or talkativeness or futility. It all brought laughter and fun and a unity to tennis that still exists today. In the early years, the Founding Fathers also faced some difficult logistic challenges. Most of the organizers of the games lived in northern Utah. John Morgan had most of his business interests up north, and he and Daisy spent time there as well as in St. George. Sylvia Wonderly, the first executive director of the games, lived in Salt Lake City, and many of the sport directors were from northern Utah as well. In fact, so many of the organizers were from Salt Lake City that many of the local businesses and town folks felt like this was a Salt Lake City event being held in southern Utah, but that never was the intent of John Morgan. And in 1990, Paula Bell moved to St. George to become office manager. Paula is still involved in the games and has become an integral part of our community. In 1992, Sherry Atkin became the chief executive officer. At that time, the games were run from the homes of several people, but soon that was to change. The games were here to stay. As the Morgans and the Jones sat around talking about this idea to bring people to St. George through a sporting event, they began talking about what sports seniors could do. They couldn't be too strenuous. These were seniors, you know. Let's see, how about golf? A lot of seniors play golf. They can ride karts. Walking is not too bad. Hey, we got one. And my granddad was really good at tossing horseshoes. That's not too strenuous. That's two. John said tennis was his favorite sport. He still plays. Okay, now we have three. Someone had seen an article in the Wall Street Journal about Masters softball. It's really getting popular. That's a good sport. We're at 4, and so it went. One by one, they discussed what they thought would work. And when all the dust cleared, there were 7 sports selected for that first year. But they soon found out some of the guys aren't quite ready for the rocking chair yet.
During the second year, during that cycling event, I was asked to be a rider in what's called the sag wagon. And the sag wagon is a vehicle that chases the last rider, so that if any of the riders have a problem with a flat tire, broken spokes, whatever it might be, we can stop the van, put the bicycle in the van, and get the rider and continue on. I thought it was going to be a pretty slow race. Well, Sheriff Glenwood Humphreys was up there to start the race. And it was really an interesting picture, because you got to imagine all the cyclists are in place. They've got their hands on the handlebars, they got their helmets on, they're ready to go. There's a ribbon across the road, traffic is all closed down, the residents of Springdale are out there to watch the beginning of the race, and they're getting ready, and the sheriff pulls his pistol out and fires a shot up in the air. Now in Springdale, with the canyon walls there, it just echoed, just a really loud shot, and instantly all those cyclists took off. And they went down around a corner and continued on the race course. Well, we were not in a rush. I thought we were gonna, be all day. So we just slowly walked around, got in the van, waited for the crowd to kind of disperse, and then we took off after the cyclist. We never caught up with the main body. We got down before we saw the first cyclist. It was clear down by Virgin. So finally, we came across a third rider going back towards Springdale. So we stopped and we asked him, we said, "What's going on? We've already passed a couple of your fellow cyclists and they're going back. Why are you going back?" He said, "Well, I finished the race, now I'm going to go back for my car." And at that moment, that changed my perception of senior games forever. because there is nothing that stands in their way. They are totally capable of any physical endeavor.
The growth of the Huntsman Games has been nothing short of incredible. An average annual growth of 22.5% since 1987 have made these games the largest state games in the country. But the biggest factor in our growth has been the satisfaction of our athletes.
Good fitness. So you still keep going.
A lot of fun, a lot of good company.
Yeah, a lot of good company. For the top
All right, guys. 5 more.
But I enjoyed it. I'll be back next year.
A lot of fun. That's it.
I think they're great. It's a lot of fun. Having a good time.
When you're a senior, or senior citizen, or a senior in anything, it's not all over. Still got a long way to go, and I think more seniors should participate in senior games and senior anything, because it's something that's invigorating. You meet people your own age and older, and it's amazing to find out how many older people in the world can do so many things today, and it makes you think that and know that the world is not just for young people, it's for old people too. So.
As we approach 10,000 athletes, the Games face many new challenges. Housing, adequate venue facilities, continued growth, the expanding need for volunteers, all are issues facing the Games today. But both the city and the Huntsman World Senior Games are geared to handle the growth and maintain the hometown spirit.
Growth is one of our biggest challenges now. Before it was maintaining the quality as we grow. But also, you're right, keeping that camaraderie and keeping that warm, fuzzy feeling that the athletes have for each other and for the volunteers and for our staff is a very, very important thing to us. And we do have to work at that. And I think the thing that we do that really makes a difference with the Games is that we really do care about the athletes individually. And our staff and our volunteers portray that and give that feeling to the athletes, and I think that's why we have been growing. I think that's a big part of the reason that people want to come back to St. George, Utah and compete is because they get that warm, fuzzy hometown feeling that the volunteers and the staff and the people of St. George, love to have the athletes come, and it's very apparent.
During the next 4 years, from 1988 to 1991, the Games added 8 new sports to its list of original 7. Track and field, swimming, bowling, table tennis, racquetball, and racewalk have become fixtures in the Games. Playing sports and competing for medals and bragging rights are what the games are all about. Sort of. We certainly are about competing. Through the years, there have been and continue to be world-class athletes in our midst, many with record-setting performances at these very games. We have international stars and former NBA basketball players, even a former Harlem Globetrotter. There are Hall of Famers and national champions in many sports like swimming, track and field, tennis, and cycling. In just about any sport, you would be hard-pressed to find an event elsewhere with better talent. But if you only compete in a sport or two, you miss a whole lot of the games. You would miss the musical talent, or, in some cases, the lack of musical talent, displayed at the talent contest. You'd miss more fun than you can stand at the Western Dinner Dance. It's a place where friends and memories are made, and occasionally a romance. It's great food and a place to strut your stuff. If all you did was compete in sports, you would miss the ever-spectacular opening ceremonies and people like Joe Namath, or Jackie Joyner-Kersee, or Karl Malone, or Steve Garvey, or astronaut and U.S. Senator Jake Garn. You would miss the opportunity to march with your sport and with thousands of other athletes, all to the cheers of the town folks, your friends, and admiring children. You'd miss first-class entertainment. Parachutists, bands, field shows, and great music. You'd miss the dignitaries, the lighting of the torch, and spectacular fireworks. If all you did was compete in sports, you'd miss the great food at the sports socials. You'd miss the music and awards. You'd miss the camaraderie and friendships that often last a lifetime. You'd miss the fun of those who value the time we spend together. If all you did was compete, you would miss the free health screenings that have saved the lives of many of our participants. You'd miss the health seminars that inform and enlighten. If all you did was compete, you would miss our incredible gift shop. If all you did was compete, well, it would still be a special time. But it would not be the full experience it could be. Let it be special. In 1992, the biathlon was replaced with the duathlon. These were the same events, running and cycling. The duathlon was just not as long distances as the biathlon. During the 6 years of 1992 to 1997, 7 other sports were added too: basketball shoot, volleyball, soccer, triathlon, 3-on-3 basketball, bridge, and mountain biking. Soccer lasted for 3 years.
We've made changes. It's not that they haven't worked out. Soccer was a sport that we actually presented to the people when I took over the games. Unfortunately, soccer, people who were seniors at that particular time in America, they hadn't played soccer in their youth. Now, every youth in America plays soccer. But at that time there weren't, and so most of the teams that we were getting were from foreign countries or were from foreign athletes who had moved to America. And so the numbers were very small, and it was very hard to recruit teams to come, and you put out so much time and effort and money promoting the soccer event that we felt that it was better to shelf it for a while until the seniors grew up a little, the ones who had been playing soccer in their college years, and that is coming up really quickly. We probably will adopt soccer again, I would think within the next 3 or 4 years.
Some people call it friendliness. Some call it hospitality. We just call it the Dixie spirit. Granted, it's quite difficult to define something so intangible, but you sure can't escape it. If you are around here very long, it has captivated the hearts of many unaware souls. It has warmed the spirit of some who needed to be appreciated. It has been a beacon to many looking for a better place to live. It is love, and giving, and friendship, and fun, and working hard together, and caring, and hurting together. It is red dirt in your britches. When you come to the games, you enter that little southwest corner of Utah that sucks you in with its secret splendor. Encompassed by majestic mountains and dazzling red rock, the view is never the same, even after a lifetime. Nature spins a constant variety of colors, hues, and shades. And maybe that is what helps generate and perpetuate that Dixie spirit in these people. During the games, you feel that Dixie spirit in our people, our staff, our directors, our volunteers, and the town folks. And if there's that rare occasion when you don't feel it, it is probably from some newcomer who hasn't got that red dirt in their britches yet, but they will.
It is an incentive today to bring people into the St. George area, the beautiful southern Utah area, to see the majesty of God's creations, the national parks and the beautiful area of land that occupies this massive area of southern Utah. And people throughout the world see it and they fall in love with it. It's the most unique and beautiful place in the world.
This city is amazing, and they make these people from all over the world feel like family. And there's hugs and kisses and warmth, and you go through the grocery store line and everybody's smiling and nobody's grousing, and you know, it's just a nice place to be. And so people come here and they feel that warmth and they want to come back.
The Dixie spirit is very much alive and well here in the St. George area. And it lives in the hearts of all those people who are here because they want to be here. They're here and want to participate and support activities like the Huntsman World Senior Games. Those are the people that show up when volunteers are needed. They're the ones that are putting in hour after hour of volunteer time with a smile on their face. That's what the Dixie spirit is all about, and it has prevailed over the years. And it's helped not only the Huntsman World Senior Games, but there have been a lot of things that would have never happened had it not been for that local spirit.
Today, the games continue to grow. Since 1998, 4 new sports have been added: square dance, lawn bowls, pickleball, and cowboy action shoot. In addition, in 2000 and 2001, Metal Golf was host to the Utah Senior Open. Square dance was started in 1999 and is one of the few events in the country that is a competition with awards to the winners. Lawn bowls started in 2001 and is played on the lush greens at Sun River and Sunbrook communities. Pickleball, which started in 2003, is one of the fastest growing sports in the country, especially amongst seniors. It is a fast-moving game that is a cross between tennis, racquetball, and badminton, with smaller courts, wooden rackets, and a wiffle ball. But what's with that name? Well, it seems Joel Pritchard, one of the founders of pickleball, had a Cocker Spaniel named Pickles. Pickles would intently watch the game, and when opportunities arose, he would grab the ball and be gone with it. Hence, we have a game named after a dog. Now, cowboy action shoot is a whole different story. And also started in 2003. This is the Old West with guns, funny outfits, and even stranger names like Buzzard's Breath and Button Hook. When the final horn is sounded, when the final runner has crossed the line, when the final point is scored, when the final out is made, then what? When the last song is played, when the last dance is over, when the last celebration has ended, when the last light is dimmed. What then? From the beginning, the Huntsman World Senior Games has always been more than an athletic competition. The motto of the early games gives us a clear picture of why these games exist and why they are special. Peace, friendship, health. The games are about the health and fitness of seniors.
Everybody out here has a bad knee and sore shoulder, and we keep Advil and people like that in business. But, I mean, the alternative is not acceptable, so you keep on going, and I hope they keep raising those age divisions so we don't have to hang it up in a few years.
The great thing about the Huntsman World Senior Games is that this is a preventive way of helping people, because they get in great shape, they look forward to these events every year, and instead of us having to pay for medical facilities or cures for diseases or homelessness, they're way out ahead of us and keeping their bodies in strong physical shape. And it's just exciting to watch them. I get enthused and so excited by just being here and seeing what's going on. And every day I'm working out and lifting weights and working on a treadmill. And so they've been a great inspiration to me.
You've got to keep going full time, all the time.
I came back maybe 12 years ago, and it's the best thing that ever happened. Best thing that ever happened.
The nice part was, since my heart surgery is, I wasn't dying at the end. See, there's the big difference now. My breathing isn't as labored when I finish. And of course, that's the key to the whole thing, the health part of swimming.
So you left thinking you didn't win anything?
Oh yeah, I thought I was fourth, and that was okay, always know. And then I came this morning, and there I got a silver medal. And that kind of makes me proud, because and that's also part of what the World Senior Games are about, is competing, doing it. And because you're always a winner. The ones who aren't a winner are the ones who don't do it or don't do anything.
The games are about fostering peace.
At the age of 43, we started to play tennis, and we enjoy it very much, and it's for us a hobby.
You just respect the people so very much who are trying their best to their own personal capabilities to stay in good physical shape and to be competitive and to join with others and to know that people have that attitude and that feeling. I don't know that I could say anything that would be meaningful to them, but I do fall in love with these people, and I do respect them immensely. And I have great affection for the fact that they're there and they're participating and they're having a great time and they're cheering on, and many of them are doing far better than they did in high school or college in their sports, and they're having a great time. And in the process of it all, we're able to get to know them and get to see what remarkable and wonderful people they are.
The games are about friendship.
It shows that those of us who reach the mature age of 70 are still capable of enjoying athletics and of meeting other people. I think that's one of the main things, to meet other people and enjoy the sport.
This time of year I'm busy, but so every once in a while you have to enjoy life. These last 2 weeks, I'm enjoying life.
This event has become more than just an athletic competition. We've been able to cultivate new friends. We've been able to socialize with the events of the senior games themselves, such as the opening ceremonies and the various dinners and luncheons that they give. And we meet people from all over the country and obviously from other countries.
But most of all, the games are people. People who try. People who hurt. People who laugh. And people who cry. We are people who share victory. We are people who make memories. We are people who make friends.
A couple of years ago, LeGrand Nielsen was running in a I don't know if it was road race or track event, but he's in his mid-90s, or closer to 100, I think, but at that time I think he was about 95. And he usually wins a medal because he's not in competition, you know. That sort of happens to you sometimes. And so he would win a medal, but this one year, 2 or 3 years ago, there was another runner, and he was from Ireland. And he started the race, and LeGrand looked over and said, geez, got somebody to compete with, you know. So they're just chugging along. Well, LeGrand starts pulling out in front, and the Irishman is back behind him a little. And we knew that LeGrand could win the race. I mean, it was obvious that he could do it. This other guy doesn't get that much kick at the end, you know. But LeGrand looked around and kind of, you could see this thoughtful look on his face, and he just slowed up. And he waited for the Irishman to catch him. They locked arms and they went across together, across the finish line. It was a beautiful show of sportsmanship, of those things that we think of as our mission statement to foster worldwide peace, friendship, health, fun. Those are the things that we do. That's why we do this, you know. And it was just such a great example of somebody who wasn't just out there just to get another medal. He wanted to share it with his brother from Ireland. It was a neat experience.
There have been 79,602 athletes who have participated in these past 20 years, each with a story, each with a memory, most with a new friend. So we thank you for 20 incredible years.